Something that's very interesting to note, at least from my point of view, as an older man now, um, which of course I have mixed feelings about growing older. You know, as I think most people who grow older uh, do have at least mixed feelings or apprehensions. It's certainly something to deal with. It's something that you have to uh, pay attention to. You have to understand and come to terms with. But it's something that everybody does. Everybody who does grow old, everybody who lives long enough to grow old, uh, has that same uh, kind of struggle, even if it manifests in different ways. What I want to observe, without getting too personal and without getting too graphic, is how it really is true that your sexual desire diminishes considerably when you reach a certain age, and that's not a bad thing. It's really not. Actually a pretty good thing. Um, and maybe it's different. Maybe for married men, it's different. But if you're just not used to, if you've if you're alone, and you don't, um, you're not intimate with another person in that way. Again, I don't want to be I don't want to be too smutty here, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, you're not with another person all that often, or it's been a while since you've been that way with another person. Um, then you you don't. I mean, I think maybe when you're in your 20s, you uh, react to certain you react to that deprivation in a certain way, and it makes you grow more desperate or do I don't know. It makes you it's not it's something that you really have to deal with because the desire is there, even if it's not being fulfilled. And fulfilling the desire is not uh, does not quote get it out of your system. This is something that I remember in the video that by Gerbert Johnson, who I think is brilliant. He's a young guy who just seems to really have it on the ball. Really smart, really funny guy. Um, but yeah, he was talking about this. The whole idea of getting it out of your system. Of when you're if you're young and you're sexually frustrated, then you turn to porn, like with the idea that it'll get it out of your system. Or you fornicate because it gets it out of your system, and you're satisfied. Well, no, that's not how it works. It stays in your system. It gets more into your system. You become more uh, um, desirous, and uh, you are steered off of the path of reasoned, of the passions being properly mediated by reason, when you just give in like that as a younger man. Um, and that's very true. But a younger man has to struggle in that way. But when you're older, you find that suddenly that there's just not as many passions. They don't manifest the same way anymore. Um, and in that sense, age and childhood are very similar. I remember being a child. I remember, you know, before uh, I noticed girls in that way, you know, say, well, the youngest age that I can remember, when I first started to have memories, let's say age 3 or 4, up through age, gosh, maybe 11, maybe 12, although 12 is kind of pushing it. I think by 12, you're sort of, it's there. The desires are there. Um, but during that era of childhood, pre-adolescence, you don't have those kinds of desires, or I didn't. I'll just make this particular to me. I, uh, I was indifferent to girls. I didn't care about impressing girls. I did if I saw a girl somewhere, it didn't mean anything to me. You know, if she was pretty, that didn't mean anything to me. Um, I was sexless in the ordinary way, um, of a child. Now, I think some children get sexualized, especially when they're abused. That they, I think, a precocious sexuality is a symptom of abuse, of some kind of abuse, whether it's a really egregious kind of abuse, like being molested, or whether it's just being exposed to things you shouldn't be getting exposed to, um, which is also a kind of molestation, just as I said, a less egregious form of it. So, like if you have parents who leave pornography on television, or leave pornographic magazines lying around the house, or what have you, like that's like a and I can remember. The reason I'm thinking about this is I'm remembering hearing an interview with Moon Zappa. Uh, the I think her full name was Moon Unit Zappa, the daughter of Frank Zappa, and I can't remember what Frank's wife's name was, but anyway, she's another. She was featured in the song Valley Girl, uh, and she I've seen some interviews with her, and she was talking about how she thought that growing up in that kind of household, growing up in a permissive uh, household, was not a good thing. Um, she said it in a measured sort of way. She wasn't just like going off on. She wasn't just moaning and complaining about her childhood, but she was sort of saying, this was definitely not not a good thing, um, and something that she sort of had to deal with. Um, you know, Something that made her self conscious, and if you watch the video of this is a much more white. I'm, I'm getting off on tangents here, so bear with me. But if you're gonna watch this video, you're bearing with me, I guess. But if you watch her video for Valley Girl, or the time where she's featured on some show, I think it's Solid Gold or something, where she comes out and the song is her doing this Valley Girl imitation, and she's a young teenager, and she's very very like very covered. Uh, she's dressed very conservatively, um, and really, it's quite striking to see, especially in contrast to what a lot of young girls do, who to try to get attention. For in her case, She sort of wants uh, doesn't want the attention. Um, but that's a whole different thing. Anyway, um, if you have a normal childhood or a normal-ish childhood like I did, a proper healthy childhood where that's not where you're not exposed to things you shouldn't be exposed to, then basically you don't think about girls like in that way. Um, Maybe there's some girls that you're friends with, but I think most of the time you're friends with other boys, and you have it's like girls are gross, girls have cooties, that sort of thing, which that's just sort of a normal thing. Like I think sex segregation is kind of a normal thing for children. But I remember, back then, like if I had seen if I was 7 years old and some sexy model, if Farrah Fawcett came on TV in a swimsuit, it wouldn't mean anything to me at 7 years old. You know, it just wouldn't mean anything to me. And it's not exactly the same now. Because now you still are aware of when someone is attractive, and you still react like a man in a way. But it doesn't. The difference is it doesn't last as long. It doesn't. You see it, you feel it, and then you get over it. You know, and then it's behind you. Um, um, I said I didn't want to be graphic, but you can just imagine what I'm talking about here, with the way that arousal manifests itself amongst men. That used to be that would be a real problem. That would be something you would deal with. That would unwanted uh, arousal and conspicuous arousal, not in having to deal with it. You know. Now that's just not a problem at all. It's just not a problem. Um, so your body changes, and I think that's part of it. But in a way, it's a very I'm leaning into it, which is I hate that phrase, but I am leaning into the the getting old in this respect. I'm leaning into being less sexualized. I'm leaning into just I don't know, almost returning to the state of my childhood. Almost returning to what you're like as a child. Where you go to bed uh, and you don't think, damn, another day without a girl. I don't even have a girlfriend. When was the last time I was even kissed? When was the last time I did this or that to a woman? Um, you know, which is the kind of things that come to your mind. Or if you're in a relationship, then you think, well, we did it 3 times last week. And that was nice. And, but, but maybe hopefully she'll be in the mood tonight or whatever. Like all the kind of stuff that you think about as a married person. It should be for married people only. But today, of course, a lot of people live together without being married. But generally speaking, in a relationship, um, which a committed relationship that involves that kind of contact ought to be within wedlock. That is my firm conviction. I think that is the firm conviction of history. but regardless of where you stand morally on that matter, um, when you're in a relationship, you think about things like that. Um, when you're single but you're younger, then you think, how do I find the one, or maybe you think, how do I just find someone for a night? Uh, even though that's wrong, even though that's fornication, of course, it happens to the best of us. Our minds still go in that direction sometimes. Um, but when you get older and you're alone, it's sort of okay. It's okay to be alone. It's okay to sleep alone. Um, and it's okay to just say to yourself, "Well, this is it. I'm uh, I'm okay with this," and it's not a cope. I know, I know some of you out there are saying that's just you're just coping. You're just coping, Andy. You're just coping. No, and unless you are also my age, if you're around my age, but you feel differently, uh, then maybe you could. I still think you'd be wrong to say I'm coping because I do. I'm being honest about how I feel about all this. But maybe if you're my age, but you have a different situation as far as your drive goes. You've still got, your drive is still lashing away at you. You still find yourself enslaved to your desires, to your passions. Um, then maybe you could just say I'm coping, or I'm making this up. Just you know because of sour grapes or whatever. But I'm telling you, I'm being honest right now when I say I, I don't need to be with anyone. Um, and you know, having seen the cost of it, without going full out and out MGTOW here, without saying just definitively that the juice isn't worth the squeeze, and that no man should get married because whatever. I'm not taking a definitive stance like that. I'm not taking a categorical stance like that. But I would say that at this point in my life, the idea of starting something new with somebody um, is just, it's just like, uh, I, I don't see the point. I don't see where it would be. Of course, companionship is nice, and of course, the things that come with companionship, wink, wink, are nice. But you know, there's a downside. There's a definite downside as well, especially in our age. And it's something I've written about a lot lately. Um, there's a definite downside. So I don't know exactly. Like here, I'll bring my thoughts to a close here because I've already rambled a bit. But I would just say, since most of the people who watch my videos are younger than me, I would just say hang in there because it really does get better. From my experience, it really does get better. If you're struggling now with your desires because you're not satisfied, you're in an unfulfilling marriage or unfulfilling relationship, or you're single and you consider yourself an incel or whatever. Um, Uh, but it's you what you would like to be in a relationship. You'd like it, but you just don't see that it's for you. I'm not telling you you're right or wrong about that. This isn't about that subject, but I am saying that it gets better. At least it has for me. I'm happy to. There are lots of things about growing older that I'm apprehensive about, that I'm having a hard time dealing with. It is a transition. It is something that it is a lot to have to come to terms with. And I'd be lying if I were claiming otherwise. But I would say that as far as this subject goes, um, I think it's it's good. It's good to be to feel a relaxation of of those drives, that they don't lash you in the same way anymore. You're not uh, you're not caught up in everything you see every time you see someone, uh, uh, you know on television, in the movie, or walking down the street, or wherever. It's just you're not caught up in it. You're not swept up in those desires anymore, and that's great. It's great. It's great to be able to. Like I said, it's a feeling of freedom. It honestly is a feeling of freedom. Anyway, those are my thoughts.